at 14 years in Iowa. Graduated from the University of Illinois with, frankly, in my way of looking at life, a practical degree in agriculture. And has ended up here in Eau Claire with the Chamber of Commerce, which is, I guess, in many ways a long ways from farming. So Scott Rogers will kick us off, and he will introduce the others who will help him.
Thank you, John. We appreciate your coming to Eau Claire. I guess we could say from a rail perspective, we're just reiterating the value of having an all-weather mode of transportation, right? If those of you from Madison could have gotten here on a train, you would have had to worry about snowpack highways, which is, I assume, what you ran into. What we're going to do today is give you kind of a modified version of a public presentation we give in our local area for the West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition. And as John mentioned, a couple of the people who are active in our coalition will be joining me for a couple parts of this as well. And we'll try to move along quickly. And at the end, if you do have any questions about what we're up to here in West Central Wisconsin, we'll try to answer some of those questions. So when we talk to the public here, one of the things that we start out with is this is really what they think of when they think of trains in Eau Claire. It's the 400. It was the Chicago Northwestern's 400 miles and 400 minutes steam passenger train that started in the 1930s, and more people remember it when it was a diesel-powered train like this. But the thing is, it's been coming up this summer, it will have been 53 years since a regularly scheduled passenger train stopped in one of our West Central Wisconsin communities like Eau Claire, Menominee, or Hudson. People do remember taking the train. This is a picture from the 1950s by a gentleman named John Anderson of people getting on the train to go east to Chicago at the Eau Claire railroad station. But if you follow transportation history in the 50s, 60s, even before that, you know that for many years our public investments went into highways and airports, and we had a great vision of what that would be like. Our extensive highway system, open roads, plenty of room, our suburban, increasing suburban lifestyle, and getting somewhere really fast on an airplane. But some reality is set in terms of the choices we have. If we only can drive and we only can fly, what if you do have to go to Madison and it's snowy and you're really tired? What if the highways look like this? What if you're in line to get on an airplane and you spend more time going through security than your flight actually takes you? And even though we've not really increased our passenger service, other alternatives, we've seen a decline and a leveling off in vehicle miles traveled, and especially per capita, it's dropped. Our population continues to grow, so you're going to see more people driving or traveling. And so that's led to what we perceive, and we're informing people in our community, a really kind of a back to the future move. And that actually, anybody know where this is? Portland, Oregon. You can actually go by train from an old train station, and ridership is up, and more people are doing that. And in fact, those of you that are in this room follow Amtrak, you know that effectively, since Amtrak was started in 1971, we really haven't seen a substantial expansion of availability of passenger train service. But we have seen substantial growth over the years in people taking the service that's available, or taking the service that is there. And for those of us in our community where we haven't had a passenger train for 53 years, we have to point out to people that there are communities around the country where they are expanding passenger train service. Illinois has been upgrading the Chicago-St. Louis corridor to over 100 miles an hour, expanding service. Michigan, with their Republican governor and legislature, has been working on the Chicago-Detroit corridor and considering others. Denver, Colorado, in the last 20 years has gone from virtually no transit system to one that's very substantial and centered out at Union Station, which I guess is a marvel now, being a hotel and a major urban center. Salt Lake City, Utah. Freeport, Maine, you can go to take the train to LL Bean and go shopping. North Carolina, lots of improvements to passenger train service. And right next door to our west, we've seen the development of transit in the Twin Cities with a dormant Union Station in St. Paul all of a sudden becoming a transportation center again. And there are 2 light rail lines that are now carrying over 1 million passengers a month. So what about West Central Wisconsin, our region? those of us that are involved in following this issue feel that all of these economic, demographic, social, transportation issues are leading us to making this an important thing for our region again. When we say West Central Wisconsin, we do try to emphasize that we're not just talking about Eau Claire, which is kind of the trade center for our area, but we effectively are looking at the former Northwestern, now Union Pacific line that's in place from the current Amtrak route at Camp Douglas up through Black River Falls, Eau Claire, Menominee, and Hudson, and into the Twin Cities. And to help forward that, we have our West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition, and this tells you what our mission is. We try to provide leadership and coordination to help develop passenger rail service through our area as part of a regional strategy for long-term economic, sustainable economic growth. In other words, we think it's important to the area, the future of our region. And actually, we've been around since 1999. We started out as a committee of Momentum, what is now Momentum West, which is our 10-county regional economic development association, and we continue to be involved with Momentum West as part of that. But one of the things that led to the formation of our rail coalition was, and actually if you look at the WisARP brochure and look at the map in the back, we take a contingent of people from our community to Madison every year to talk about state issues. It's called the Chippewa Valley Rally. Just did our 22nd year. We've been advocating for a long time, actually, for passenger rail service to our area. It's coordinated by the 3 chambers of commerce in Menominee, Chippewa Falls, and Eau Claire. And our leaders got to Madison one year and they found out about the Midwest Regional Rail Initiative. And they saw the map, and they saw on the map that the state was planning to implement passenger rail service to most of the metropolitan areas in Wisconsin, except West Central Wisconsin was going to be a bus connection from Eau Claire to Toma. And that's the way we would be served for passenger rail service. And so since that time, our coalition has been together and has been working to get us included in state planning and other things. And all of you know of the things that have happened since then in terms of the state going back and forth on its interest in passenger rail. But what we're really working towards long term is this. We think for the Chippewa and St. Croix valleys, which is the area around Hudson, that we do need a choice of passenger rail as something for our long-term economic future. That would include highly competitive intercity service going both east and west to the Twin Cities, onto Milwaukee and Chicago, that there's potential for local and commuter rail service between our region and the Twin Cities. And then longer term, when high-speed rail is built between Chicago and the Twin Cities, which it will eventually, the question is when, that we are on the shortest route and we are likely to be a strong case for the true high-speed rail. And then we would think that this is a map, I think, from the Midwest High-Speed Rail Association, and they show a future vision that would include a number of routes in the Midwest, including routes through West Central Wisconsin. So what is the case for this? What's going to drive future passenger rail service? I talked about Back to the Future. Is it just all of us who maybe remember taking the 400 and wanting just to bring back the good old days? And it probably will be business driven, a lot of it. Here's a picture from the 1950s of a businessman getting on the 400, heading for Milwaukee or Chicago for business. But it really is more than nostalgia. It's some of the things that I mentioned, the factors that are coming together. We think it's going to be economics and business that are driving this. And as we've moved forward in this, we've started engaging with some of our local business people in Eau Claire, and as well as throughout our region. And we're finding out that it is important to business to be connected to this. And it's my pleasure now to actually turn a few minutes of the program over to one of the leading organizations in our area, a company called Jamf Software.